Hey, what's up you guys? Yes, I'm Kristina from Leafy Luster and today I want to talk about my top 10 most valuable plants in my collection. This video is definitely not meant to be a flex, it's much more an answer to a question that I get asked a lot, especially from non-planty people, because once they learn about houseplant collecting and the plant hobby, they want to know what is my most expensive plant. So here's the answer to that. I didn't choose these plants based on monetary value, it's much more based on personal preference and what was available to me at the time. I obviously got a little influenced as well, so throw that into the mix. Anything variegated and velvety always wins over my heart, so it's just a mix of plants. Starting in this corner right here, I already have a few plants picked out. These are not in any particular order, so let's just start with this one. This is a Philodendron White Princess and I got this one as a top cutting with 3 or 4 leaves. And I don't want to say I got scammed, but it was my own fault for buying it. It cost me 200 euros. This was a lot of money for a 3 or 4 leaf cutting, and yes, it was really nicely variegated. It has really good genetics, and this is not the only plant. By now I've taken a ton of cuttings from this plant. I definitely got some value out of this cutting, but still I feel like 200 euros was way too much. Well, we pay for variegation, right? Number 2 on the list with a price tag of $64 or euros would be the Anthurium Serenoid Velvet. I have it right here and this is a recent acquisition. You see, it was an import and it's doing fine, but it hasn't really done anything yet. I imported this one from Ecuador, so it was a little cheaper than if I would have bought it here in Germany. So I think $64 is a pretty fair price for this plant. It's velvety, it's a long leaf Anthurium. These just cost a little buck. I think it's also important to mention that a lot of these plants I bought at one of the high points in houseplant history, the houseplant craze of the pandemic. So the prices were crazy, and obviously if you were buying plants back then, you also paid a lot more than you would pay now. Just a reminder. So next up, you might already see it, I have my glorious Philodendron Gloriosum, which is an absolute beauty. I love it so much. I can just encourage everyone to get one of these because it's absolutely easygoing and it's just beautiful, to say the least. It's a huge plant. It's growing a new leaf at the moment. I got this plant for 90 euros as a 1-leaf top cutting, I believe, almost 2 years ago, and it has grown really nicely ever since. I'm really happy with it. I think now they also cost less. One of my favorite plants by far. Turning our attention right there. Over here on my cart I have a few really special plants, at least they are special to me. I know that I don't have the most exquisite and rare and costly collection, but these plants are still valuable to me and I like them for what they are. One of them would be this Alocasia miculitiana. She is huge. Let me show you. Hello? Just look at her. Absolutely gorgeous. It's actually 2 plants in here. I got this plant from plants.com for 64 euros, I believe. It was pretty big back then already, but it has grown ever since. I'm absolutely in love. I would say the prices on this one have been pretty stable, maybe a little bit cheaper by now, but pretty much same, I would say. Absolutely gorgeous. Another great plant is on this card here as well. I know all of my plants are my favorite and really special. I say this a lot because I love them all, but I bought this plant for 130 euros. Back then it was a 3-leaf top cutting which was already established in soil. I think the prices haven't really changed much, to be honest. They are pretty stable since this is still probably the most sought after rare houseplant there is. By now you can find this plant in garden centers as well. It's much more expensive there though. If you can buy from private sellers or online shops, you're probably better off. Well, you might remember I said I want to talk about my most valuable plants, and this means it's not all about how expensive they were, but what the value of them is now. And just looking at this giant, let's look at this. It's huge. It has like 10 leaves or something, and I recently took a lot of propagations in this video right here, so I have like 10 more propagations. Let's do a little bit of math here, because I could technically charge around 50 euros per node of this plant if I'm being generous, of course. If I'm adding 10 leaves from this mother plant to the 10 propagations I have 20 single node cuttings potentially, and then multiplying by 50, calculating, in my mind this adds up to 1,000 euros worth of plant, right? 1,000? That's a lot. Oh my god, you're an expensive lady. Hello? I'm obviously not going to cut all of her because I love this plant. I'm going to keep it to myself. But this means that all of the propagations that I have standing around here could potentially be worth 500 euros, which is not bad. I am selling my props for less though. This just goes to show that if you're smart with your plant investments and the prices of the plant stay stable for a long time, you can even increase the value of your plant, and then by taking cuttings you can make some money back or even make some profit on top. Let's move on to the plant wall. The next plant I can't really show you since it is planted in my planter box on this plant wall. It is my Syngonium aurea. It's the yellow variegated Syngonium, and this one I got for 110 euros from Harmony Plants, I think. Recently I wanted to sell a cutting from this plant, and I was really shocked to see that the prices have lowered so much. I mean, technically it's good because more people can get this plant now. It's much more obtainable. Similar with the white variegated Syngonium. It makes sense though, because these plants are easy to care for, they grow really fast, you can easily propagate them, the success rate of propagations is really high, so why would it be expensive, right? The next plant is right over there on this side, and it is the Anthurium Vgi. And first off, please don't judge me, I know it looks terrible. This leaf I ripped while it was unfurling, so it looks like ass. This is also an old leaf, it's kind of wonky, the tip is a little bit yellow. I bought this plant for 145 euros, I think 2 years ago, maybe even longer. The prices have been pretty stable ever since. Maybe they lowered a little bit, but generally this plant is still really sought after. You know, all hail the queen. To stay on topic, let's meet the other member of the royal family. I am referring to the king Anthurium here, the Anthurium Vgi. I have it on this grow shelf right here. It is a pretty easy plant once you figure out its needs. It is a slow grower for me though, so maybe I could do even better on the needs part. Other than that, it has a hefty price tag. I guess royalty isn't cheap. So this one, I think I paid 130 euro for. So it was a small specimen and it is still pretty small. I have it for 2 years now, I think, so. As far as I could see, the prices haven't really changed much. Also got a little cheaper maybe, but still pretty stable. Next plant on my list, which I bought in the height of the plant craze, silly me, because I paid 160 euros for this plant, and it had approximately this size when it arrived, so there were quite some notes. I think the leaves were a little bit bigger back then. That's a lot of money for, let me be honest here, a really simple plant. It grows really fast, it propagates like a charm, so I really don't see the price point and why it should be this high, you know? So, well, the good thing is, since it's so easily propagatable, I have chopped and propped it so often now that I got my money back from selling those propagations. So at least the plant paid itself back to me. Was this a sentence? I don't know. Next up I have the Philodendron Gloriosum, and this is an expensive little thing because this plant cost me 180 euros. Can you believe it? 180 euros. I also bought it on the height of the plant craze. So it was overpriced probably. I didn't need to buy it, I just wanted to have it, so I paid the high price for it. I was really disappointed with this plant since it wouldn't want to grow for me properly. The leaves kept ripping and I just couldn't get it under control. Now, after propagating it and replanting it, I'm much more content with it. It has some random variegation on the leaves right here. Would I pay 180 euros for this one again? No, definitely not. Seeing the plant prices now, you can get such a plant for 80 euros maybe, which is significantly less than it was, and I could have waited and gotten it a year later, saved some money, but you know, you live and you learn. Now we have 2 more plants left. I lied, sorry, it's actually 3 plants. Starting with the first of them. Oops. It's my Stephania Kawasaki, formerly known as Stephania Nova, I believe. And this one is Cutie Patootie potato plant. I love my potatoes, you know that. The stalks aren't as long as with the Stephania erecta, for example, so they stay more or less like this, and I just think it looks so cool, doesn't it? If I remember correctly, it cost me either 145 euros or 175, which is quite a fortune. You know, I just have a dream to be mother of potatoes, so I just had to get one of these because, I mean, look at those leaves. Next up is this little fella right here, this huge Anthurium pallidiflorum. I got this one as a smaller plant. I wouldn't say baby plant necessarily, but it was a young plant. It wasn't this big at all. You can still see some of the old leaves, which were much more small. I think it was between 100 and 120 euros. For these, the prices have dropped significantly as well. Now they are more around like 80 or even less. So if you want to get one of these, it's your chance. They are really cheap at the moment and it's such a cool plant. I love it so much. Now, are you ready for the last plant? Because I might have saved this one on purpose since it's so special. Let's go. Welcome to my most prized possession, my Alocasia Varigata. And whenever someone asks me what my most expensive plant is, well, it has to be this one, because I paid 385 euros to get this beauty. And it wasn't this big, it was 3 little baby leaves. It was a little bit risky since you never know how the variegation is going to hold up, if it's going to disappear or get even stronger. It was quite a big deal for me at the time. Now that I have her, I'm much more relaxed. She's holding up the variegation quite nicely, and to be honest, the plant care for this one is extremely easy. It is definitely comparable to the green version, and it is producing a lot of bulbs and like offshoots, so new little plants that come out next to the mother plant. You can harvest these and then grow them into little baby plants, and with some luck they will be variegated as well. So I think you can get a little bit of your money back as well. Or you just make a ton of Alocasia fried eggs for yourself, you know, you do you. I also want to touch on the topic of plant prices and the plant craze. We are seeing that prices are going down at the moment, the demand for plants isn't as high, and this is a totally natural process. I think it was obvious that after lockdowns have ended and people are resuming to their normal day-to-day lives, the interest in plants would go back down again significantly. So I don't get why some people are salty or upset about viewer counts going down and just plant prices going down. To underline my arguments, I summed up the plant prices from all the plants I listed today, and it came around to 1,943 euros for all of them combined. Which, to be honest, is quite a bit of money, and I'm shocked I spent so much on plants. And these are only my most expensive plants. I also did a little bit of research and estimated how much I would have paid for the same plants today. And it summed up to 1,084 euros. So it's almost 1,000 euros less than I actually paid like 2 years ago. I mean, I could have saved 1,000 euros if I just waited a year or two longer. At the time I had the resources to buy these plants, I wanted them, so I chose to do it. If you cannot afford a plant right now, then maybe just wait a year longer. Eventually plant prices always go down, with some exceptions of course, and then maybe you can get it later. If you're interested in a little bit more behind the scenes of selling plants from home, I have listed all of my plant sales and profits from 2020 and 2021 in this video right here. Yes, I will be making a video for 2022 as well, end of the year someday. And with this, I'll see you next time. Until then, enjoy your plants and goodbye!